This right here is Disney, the corporation which was once quite literally the emblem of pure Americana. But right now, Disney is facing massive challenges, including an astounding loss of about $79 billion worth of market cap. And the reason for this loss is multifaceted. For instance, Disney is losing hundreds of millions of dollars on their most recent films. Their theme park attendance has completely nosedived. They've lost millions of subscribers to their Disney Plus service. All the while, it appears that Disney executives are doubling down on the very policies and the very ideologies that got them into this mess in the first place. To start with, if you've ever been to Disney World, then you know how just absolutely jam-packed it always is, especially during the holidays. It's not uncommon to stand around for quite literally hours just waiting in line for some ride. But that doesn't seem to be the case, at least anymore. That's because, starting around July 4th of this year, well, photos began circulating online showing how empty the streets of Disney World and Epcot have actually become. You can see some of the photos up on your screen right now, showing what were once jam-packed pavilions, now pretty much standing empty. Now this tweet here pretty much sums it up nicely. Quote, Disney World in Orlando is suffering. Here it is nearly mid-July, schools are out, families are on vacation, and the streets at Disney are just about empty. And then the photo right below that text shows a girl at Disney World, and the street behind her is pretty low on traffic, to say the least. However, besides all this anecdotal evidence like these photos, there's also real concrete data to back up that this is in fact happening. In fact, about 2 weeks ago, in the Wall Street Journal, they published an article titled, quote, Disney World hasn't felt this empty in years. And within this article, they cited data from a company called Turing Plans, which is a company that tracks waiting times at different theme parks across the country. And on your screen right now is a graphical representation of their data. It shows how the July 4th waiting times at 4 different Walt Disney theme parks have changed over the years. And the decline is tremendous. For instance, if you went to Magic Kingdom in 2019, you would be standing in line for an average of about 45 minutes. However, if you went there this year, the wait time would be closer to 25 minutes. Likewise, the waiting times for Hollywood Studios was cut in half, from about 40 minutes in 2019 to only 20 minutes this year. Judging by these numbers, it would appear that the foot traffic in Disney World has been cut by approximately 50%, which is a drop-off that is so significant that during a recent investor conference, Mr. Bob Iger, who is the current CEO of Disney, he had to address it, and he had to give a reason for why it was happening. However, here's the kicker. When Mr. Bob Iger came out, he pinned the blame exclusively for this massive drop-off in foot traffic on something that he referred to as affordability issues. Here's specifically what he said during the first quarter earnings call with Disney investors. Some of our pricing initiatives were alienating to consumers. I've always believed that accessibility is a core value of the Disney brand. We were not perceived to be as accessible or as affordable to many segments as we probably should have been. And there might actually be some truth to that, because if you look at the price changes of Walt Disney World over time, and you compare it to things like rent, wages, and gasoline, you find a chart that looks something like this, showing that the price of a Disney vacation has increased by a staggering 3,800% over the past 50 years, outpacing all the other things. But if you think about it for a quick second, given the fact that these Disney prices have been increasing over the past 50 years now, does it really make sense that pricing is the only issue for why foot traffic suddenly stopped this year? Because despite the fact that the price has increased and Disney has indeed become more expensive, well, there are many other elephants in the room that the CEO failed to mention, which could be leading to this drop-off in attendance. These are things like Disney removing the use of gender-specific pronouns at the park, meaning that employees are no longer allowed to say things like boys and girls and ladies and gentlemen, and instead they now just have to say hello everyone. It could be the fact that Disney took a very heavy-handed political stance against Florida's anti-grooming bill. It could be the fact that many parents don't agree with having transgender men dress up as female characters around their kids. Or it could be the fact that middle Americans don't necessarily appreciate Disney putting their park employees through mandatory anti-racism re-education, which for your reference includes things like having them fill out privilege checklists, decolonizing their personal bookshelves, and participating in what they refer to as reparations. None of that was mentioned by the CEO. Everything that we just discussed was related only to the Disney theme parks. But Disney's problems go significantly further than that, because over on the film side, Disney has lost a staggering $900 million from their last 8 releases. Now again, just like with the theme park situation, this could be due to poor marketing, external market conditions, or it could be due to people not having enough pocket money to go to the movies. Or perhaps it could have something to do with the fact that Disney employees are pushing gender ideology through their movies, which is, by the way, not speculation. In fact, last year, there was an internal video conference within Disney, which was then leaked to the public, and in that meeting, you had the Disney corporate president, Ms. Carrie Burke, explain how she wants a minimum of 50% of Disney's new characters to be either LGBTQ and or racial minorities. Here's a clip from that video.
I'm here as a mother of two queer children, actually, one transgender child and one pansexual child, and also as a leader. We had an open forum last week at 20th where, again, the home of really incredible, groundbreaking LGBTQIA stories over the years, where one of our execs stood up and said, we only have a handful of queer leads in our content. And I went, what? That can't be true. And I realized, it actually is true. We have many, many, many LGBTQIA characters in our stories, and yet we don't have enough leads. And going forward, I certainly will be more so. I know that we will be, and I hope this is a moment where, the 50% of the tears, sorry, are coming. We just don't allow each other to go backwards.
And indeed, it's worth mentioning that that plan was already being implemented when she made that statement, because during the call, a Disney production coordinator, who was also on the call, explained how they've already set up a tracker to make sure that they are creating enough gender nonconforming characters. Take a listen.
I've had the privilege of working with the Moon Girl team for the last 2 years, and they've been really open to exploring queer stories. And I'm on the production side. Part of the work that I feel like I can put in is making sure that we take place in modern day New York. So making sure that that's like an accurate reflection of New York. So I put together like a tracker of our background characters to make sure that we have like the full breadth of expression. And we got into a very similar conversation, Carrie, of like, all of our like gender nonconforming characters are in the background. And so it's not just a numbers game of how many LGBTQ plus characters you have.
And indeed, true to their word, if we look at several of the most recent Disney releases, they include an openly gay character in Strange World, a gay kissing scene in Lightyear, a non-binary character in the movie Elemental, and so on and so forth. And of course, you had the injection of other types of this progressive ideology into the last several films as well. For instance, the deconstruction of previously masculine characters like Indiana Jones and Luke Skywalker, as well as the race swapping of many characters like Tinkerbell, Ariel, and Belle from Beauty and the Beast. Now, whether or not this is the main reason why these movies tanked isn't exactly clear. It could again be a combination of many different factors. I've heard critics say that it was bad marketing, economic conditions, or just really bad storytelling and writing. But it would be ridiculous to deny the fact that millions of mothers across America, well, they don't necessarily feel comfortable taking their small kids to see films with those sorts of messages. However, it seems like despite the fact that Disney has lost quite literally hundreds of millions of dollars on their last several releases, they are continuing to go down the same path, evidenced by the recently leaked photos from the quote-unquote Snow White remake. Regardless, as bad as it is to lose $900 million on their last 8 movies, it gets even worse for Disney when you consider the fact that this $900 million loss is coupled with them losing quite literally billions of dollars on their streaming service, Disney+. Here's an article that was published in the LA Times just 4 months ago explaining how much Disney has actually lost. Quote, Disney went to market with Disney Plus in November 2019 with a $6.99 a month subscription fee, which helped the service quickly attract millions of subscribers in its quest to rival Netflix. But the service has lost billions of dollars for the company. Disney raised the fee by nearly $3 a month because the company has been losing billions of dollars a year on its streaming ventures. In the most recent quarter, Disney's direct-to-consumer segment lost $1.1 billion. A loss of $1.1 billion in the last quarter alone. You take all of this into consideration, and suddenly it becomes rather clear as to why Disney's stock price has just completely nosedived, and the company has lost about half of their market cap over the last 2 years, which, just for your reference, amounts to a staggering loss of about $79 billion. And And of course, because of this massive loss in investor confidence, Disney is now in the midst of laying off, quite literally, thousands of their employees. And so that is the general situation. It appears that, very similar to what happened with Bud Light and Target, Disney chose to embrace a certain ideology in their products, and the market appears to be reacting accordingly. If you'd like to go through any of my research notes for today's episode, I'll throw them all down into the description box below this video for you to check out. And then until next time, I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. Stay informed. Most importantly, stay free.